Maybe you've studied English for years, maybe you've studied abroad, and now you've achieved an advanced level of English. Not many people get to this stage, so it's actually a really big achievement. But what do we do now? Now that we've got this advanced level, what do we do with it? How do we maintain it? What? I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences with learning Spanish in particular, because my Portuguese is not that good. So Spanish is the only real example that I can sort of use to give advice. The first thing that I think that we should really consider is maintaining our level. Not forgetting what we've already learned is so important, because just because we've got advanced English now doesn't mean that it's going to stay like that forever. For example, my Portuguese used to be advanced, but because I haven't lived in Brazil for a long time, oh my god. Yeah, I lived in Brazil 10 years ago. Time passes quickly. Because I was using it a lot when I was there, and also I was studying it at university as well. Obviously, my level was way higher than what it is now. It's just really, really rusty, and whenever I have speaking classes, I basically just end up speaking Spanish with a Brazilian accent, maybe. You can maintain it in different ways. You could do one-to-one speaking classes, listening to different things, reading lots of books, taking courses, things like that. It's really personal to you and what you enjoy, what you're good at, you know best. So as well as maintaining our knowledge, we also have to think about expanding it. We never truly finish learning a language. We don't even finish learning our own language. We're constantly learning. I am anyway. TikTok has taught me so many new words and phrases in English that I never knew existed before, and that even quite a lot of my friends who don't have TikTok don't know what they are. I think it's also like a generational thing. But because language is constantly changing and evolving, it means that language learning is never over. Now, wait, hang on, because a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, it's like never over. It can just go on and on. When will I be done? And that might cause you anxiety to know that there is still so much to learn, but honestly, if you've got B2 level, you can pretty much do anything with a language. Probably even if you have B1 level, which is lower intermediate, you can still live your life and get by. But if you love learning as much as I do, I love the infiniteness of knowledge and the fact that we are never done and there's always something new to learn. So if you're like that, then this is exciting, because it just means that you can continually expand on knowledge forever until the end of time, or until we die. If you are C1 level, you can consider going on to study C2, which is Proficiency. It's not necessary. I used to give C2 courses, and it's really mostly refreshing C1 advanced grammar mixed with other things, and there's also a focus on literature. I will say though, I do feel like C2 level is in some way controversial. I think it is a money-making thing, because I used to work at different language schools and they would invent new levels just so that students would keep paying for courses. So C2 is not compulsory, and to be honest, I do think that if you're not going to go down the academic English route and kind of study abroad or do a master's, or you're not really interested in like English literature, then it's probably not for you or not as necessary. That's just my hot take. If you are already C2 level and you are asking yourself this same question, like what do I do next? I finished C2, then this next part is kind of more for you. I studied Latin American studies specifically. So I was studying language and also social sciences, like with sociology and anthropology. I'd already done a year abroad living in Mexico and Brazil. And so the natural next step for me once I graduated was to live in that country, specifically to study. I chose to study another degree, another bachelor's degree, and also a master's degree in a Spanish-speaking country here in Mexico. I think at first I wanted to do it because linguistically it was going to be a challenge for me, and I really wanted to push myself as far as I could go and really to see if I could do it. I love studying, and so it just made sense for me to do that. And in retrospect, I feel like my Spanish now is totally different because of the fact that I studied university here. Because I have to write essays, read academic articles, I have to give presentations to big groups of people, and also just listening to lectures. Like, lectures here are 4 hours long. I don't know if that's the same in every university, but all my experiences here have been super, super long lectures. In England, our lectures were at most 3, no, not even 3. They were 2 hours long, maybe 1 hour. But well, if you are not into the academic thing as much, you can also work. I have lots of friends who work in different countries using multiple languages to do their jobs. If you don't want to work or you don't want to study, you could try something for a shorter period of time, like a workaway or a similar program, where basically in exchange for free accommodation and sometimes free food, you work on a farm or be a nanny or something like that. If you don't want to, or you can't move abroad, because that is also a luxury and a privilege, then you can try something called simulated immersion. Now, real immersion is moving to the country that speaks the language that you're learning. Simulated immersion is pretty self-explanatory. It's just basically faking an environment around yourself, pretending that you are in that country. So you can do this in multiple ways. I did this after my year abroad when I had to move back to England, and I needed like Spanish and Portuguese around me all of the time because I was so afraid that I would forget it. And so I was listening to podcasts, I was putting on like the radio from like whatever country, just like in the background. By the way, you don't necessarily need to be listening to things consciously, because think about when you move to another country, even if you just go on the subway, you are not necessarily consciously listening to people's conversations. You're doing it subconsciously, and it's just in the background, people chatting in that language. It's not as obvious or as focused and intentional as listening to somebody and then responding. Although you can also do that. You can get a conversation partner in the city that you are, or you can also do it online. You could also try online courses, writing a diary, and you could also read a book. I also have a video about how to read books in English, which you can check out here. Now, the final thing I would say is more appropriate for higher levels like C1 and C2, but I would also urge anyone who is learning English to do this. And it's basically expanding your knowledge of what we call the Englishes. The Englishes is a name given to the different variations of English that is spoken around the globe. So part of this research could be investigating more about the different dialects, accents, pidgin, Creole that exist around the world. I had a student on italki that had English class with a different teacher every week, and he would specifically look for a teacher from a different country or a different part of that country. And so one week he would have class with someone from Australia, and then from South Africa, and then from India. And then maybe if he was choosing British teachers, he would choose someone from London who had a London or one of the London accents. Maybe he chose me because I have a Yorkshire accent, although it's kind of not as strong as other people from Yorkshire because I've not lived there in so long. And with italki, this kind of makes it way easier because you can specifically search for the teacher based on the country and also based on their level of professional qualifications. I also did this. I am a teacher on italki, but I also use it as a student. I found my Brazilian Portuguese teacher on italki. His name's Vlad and he's from Sao Paulo. So that was I kind of chose that on purpose because when I lived in Brazil, I lived in Rio. So I kind of developed a Carioca accent, I think, and my slang was more Carioca. But when I visited Sao Paulo, I knew that I would probably want to go back at some point and live there, or even just for a holiday. And so I specifically searched for a teacher from Sao Paulo so that I could kind of start to get used to the accent and understand maybe some of the slang that is from that region. When you sign up to italki and put on your first $20 of credit, they will automatically give you an extra extra 10 US dollars just as a special gift if you sign up using my special link, which I will put in the description box and in the comments below. Did I miss anything? Is there any recommendations that you would give to someone? Are you an advanced learner? Please share your knowledge and wisdom in the comments, and let's continue the discussion there.